Well, we're going to be talking about the corporation governments. What people don't realise is that in secrecy, without going to the people for a mandate, without asking the people if they could alter the Constitution, it's been done behind everybody's back. You go and you elect a member of parliament or a prime minister or a president, and you think that you're electing somebody to do your will in government. That's not the case anymore. Corporation governments have a president, and prime ministers of other countries become the president under the corporation rules of the United Nations. You might say, well, how does that happen? Well, without me going into detail here, there's thousands of treaties. These treaties are between the so-called elected constitutional government and the United Nations. And these treaties have enabled them to dictate to your government what you will get, what you believe, what you're going, your laws and everything. You have, for example, the Fabian Secret Society, which concocted up the Agenda 21. That is an evil document that is causing havoc in our ecosystems. Under the Agenda 21, or so-called sustainable development, a farmer can't cut down a tree to grow food. But the mining cartels, who are part of the membership of the oligarchy, they can come in, take over your farm, cut down 1,000 trees with impunity. You might say to yourself, how do these people become subservient to the UN? Well, I'll tell you how, and it's in my previous report, but just quickly, they target young, brilliant scholars in universities, give them some money, promise them the world, tie them up, sew them up, and give them a scholarship, and then later on, when they've graduated, they become part of their secret society. And you should look at my previous reports on this. What I must say to you, the United Nations is not an elected body, so no constitutional government should be doing a deal with a non-elected government. And I'll say this too, also while we're on this subject, if you want to elect somebody into Parliament or your government, make sure he's not a member of a secret society, because if he is, he's already sworn an oath of allegiance to the king of his society. He's already under their rule, not your rule. One more thing. Before they can, even with a constitutional government, there's two things that they have to do. And they are circumventing all of the laws of the land to do it. And that is to get rid of the Constitution, one way or the other. They know damn well that if they come to you with a vote for a referendum, can they do it? They know that you will say no. They will not get a referendum through for a republic or for changing the Constitution. It's been tried many times, and their referendums have failed. So they've come around the corner now with the treaties. They're doing it that way, very cunning. So they've got to get rid of the Constitution, and they've also got to get rid of the Ten Commandment law, which is the base law of the Westminster system. And they will bring in the Noahide laws, which I clearly showed you in my previous report. Now, to give you an example of what is really going on, I'm going to show you a clip that came out of YouTube. It's not very old. And there were some congressmen who stood up against the activities of the president and their government, who were making wars on Libya at the time, and they realised it was totally unwarranted, and it was illegal, and it was a crime. They even sued Barack Obama. That paper that they delivered to him, where is it? That's been swept under the carpet. Why? Because these same powers of secret societies also control the judges and the courts. Not only are they in control of the media, but you're not going to get the truth. Now, in the rest of this report, I'm going to show you a clip from the congressmen in USA government, and I'm going to also then show you a rundown, a summary on the Daniel prophecies, which were posted about 550 years ago. 550 BC. That's 2,550 years ago. And every item that is portrayed and posted in these prophecies is coming true right in front of your eyes. Put it together with the previous report that I gave to you. Has the day of the Lord started? Only come true on the 17th of June.
We're here today to announce the filing in federal court of a lawsuit that challenges the constitutionality of the war against Libya. The Constitution of the United States, Article 1, Section 8, makes it abundantly clear that no president can go to war unilaterally without the permission of the Congress. This lawsuit also is challenging a policy that permits the president to commit the United States to a war under the authority of NATO. Similarly, we're challenging policy that would allow the United States to be committed to war under the authority of the United Nations. What we are saying in both cases is that it is necessary to come to Congress, and that neither NATO nor the UN trumps the United States Constitution.
This is, as Dennis said, a very, very important day for the American people. And I believe those that wrote the Constitution would be standing with us today, quite frankly. Those who drafted the Constitution must be very disappointed in how the Congress and the executive branch have evolved over the past 25 years. Today, as Dennis said just a moment ago, this is an opportunity to rectify a direction that America's been going without the support of the Constitution. This is a clear and absolute illegal war. It has been from the beginning, as quite frankly wars have been in the past. But we're dealing with this one now. We have to deal with this now. We have to assert our powers. And if we don't step forward now, if the courts don't assist us now, if our colleagues don't assist us now, effectively they said, you are a neutered branch of government with no powers in this arena. And that cannot happen.
Now, as you already know, the governments of all the Western countries have been secretly converted into corporations, including US and of course Australia. And as a corporation, the United Nations is gearing up, ready to take over every country, as it did with the IMF taking over Argentina and Egypt and Ireland, Spain, Portugal. All of these countries now are in danger of NATO forcing their ideology onto them, and that is part of the biblical prophecy. Now, if you think that you don't believe in God, you don't believe in the Bible, and you can poo-hoo all this, I suggest you at least have another look at this, because it is happening right in front of your eyes. Now, as you realise, all governments, including the Australian government, they're going to war with the NATO UN troops under the UN treaties. Again, I can't emphasise enough that this is illegal, because they are committing our young men to a war which is they're only dictated to do it by United Nations treaties. We should not be doing it. But it's too late to put a stop to that. Now, on your screen, I've given you a quick rundown here, summary of Daniel chapter 2, chapter 7, and chapter 8. And as I said before, this was posted about 2,550 years ago. Now, on the left-hand column there on chapter 2, you've got an image that was seen in a dream by Nebuchadnezzar. And the answer to that came from Daniel. And the head was gold, that was Babylon, Medo-Persia, chest of silver, then the Grecian Empire, thighs of brass, then the Roman Empire, legs of iron, then number 5, New World Government, feet of iron and clay. because it now brings in the corporation United States governments. And it tells you in that story, some are strong and some are weak. In other words, they don't adhere together. Already a couple have broken loose from it, and later on you'll see that there's 3 more that break out of it. Item 6, then on that prophecy, the everlasting kingdom of Yahweh God. That's represented in the story by a stone that was hewn out of the mountain without human hands. It becomes a mountain, it fills the whole earth, but one point you've got to realize, it destroys all of the other gods. And then it tells you that the new chosen Israel people will inherit that kingdom. And I put new chosen Israel because all of the old Israel were totally rejected as so wicked that they are not the people referred to in the prophecies to inherit anything again. Now in the middle you've got chapter 7. You've got a lion with eagle's wings. That's Britain and USA. You've got a bear, which is Russia and China. Then you have a leopard with 4 heads and 4 wings. There's your 4 world unions. Then you've got the terrible beast, which is the New World Order, NATO and the UN. Corporation governments comes in again. But in verse 25, look it up yourself. They want to change the seasons and change the laws. And they're doing that by changing the seasons. You have climate change, and HAARP, H-A-A-R-P, is their secret weapon that are using to change the seasons. Then in 5, you've got about the little horn power. This is the secret society, as I gave to you in the previous report. That's the Illuminati, the Vatican, Talmud Jews, the mute abomination that's in Jerusalem, and the Noahide laws that they're going to bring in. Now, I know that all of the Christian churches, they zero in and focus that the little horn is the Pope. Well, I can assure you, the Vatican is only one finger in this pie. Then on the bottom there, you got the everlasting kingdom of Yahweh comes in again at the end of this prophecy. Judgment comes into this prophecy, judgment by the hand of Yahweh God. There's the verses there. And this terrible beast is destroyed, and it's not destroyed by man. It's destroyed by the hands of Yahweh God. And you've got that in verse 25 and 26. Now over on the right-hand side, you've got Daniel chapter 8. I might add that these all start, and it tells you that they are for the end of days, the time of the end. You've got a lot of doctrines that run around the world and saying that, well, that was Greece 321 BC. No, it wasn't. It's impossible for 321 BC to be the end of days or the time of the end. Now in Daniel chapter 8, you've got a goat that makes a war against Medo-Persia. Now that goat they've got in the Bible as Greece. No, it's not. As I said, you get the word Yahweh in there, not Greece, and that's the United States, NATO, and the UN again. They're waging war against all of the countries that now represent the old Medo-Persian Empire. Now in chapter, on item 3 there, it mentions the little horn again, verse 9. Again, there's your secret societies, the Illuminati, Vatican, Talmud Jews, the mute abomination, the Noahide laws coming in. Item 4, the New World Government. There's your 4 unions. That's in verse 22. Again, bringing in corporate United Nations governments, the same as they're doing all over the world. Our government is not a constitutional government being obedient to the people for the people. It is now a corporation government under the dictates of the United Nations treaties. Tells you in item 5 that there's a brazen-faced king. Again, this is the secret societies, Illuminati, Vatican, Talmud Jews, mute abomination, Noahide laws. Again, it tells you in verse 25 that it is destroyed not by human hand. So it's destroyed by Yahweh God the Creator. And I'll tell you something, if it wasn't destroyed by Yahweh God the Creator, all hell would break loose on this world until man had completely wiped out man. So thank God that there is an intervention there by the Creator God, Yahweh, and you'll get that in verse 25 in that chapter. You can also go to chapter 9 if you want to, in verses 17 to 18, And that will also tell you that that prophecy is for the end of the days, the time of the end. Now, this is a rundown for you, it's a summary for you. I am not a pastor, I'm not a preacher. This is totally independent. It is void of any concoction out of any mainstream media or mainstream religious organizations. This is what it says in the old book, and I'm showing you what it represents today. Now I'll ask you to go and do your own research here. Get your head into the Google. Ask the questions of everything that I've shown you. And in particular, the previous report about has the day of the Lord started. Crikey, I showed you thousands of tons of fish belly up all over the ocean. There's thousands and thousands of dolphins and whales that are dying. There's millions and millions and millions of birds all over the world that are dead, dying, dropping out of the sky. Animals dead, dropping where they are. I showed you in the verses, Yahweh God said in his day of anger, his day of wrath, prior to the day of judgment, these are the signs that will happen before his day, the day of the Lord. They're happening right in front of you. I showed you that the Nile River hasn't had a flood for some 30-odd years, and the Nile River is now parched and dry. Same with the Euphrates River and the Tigris River. Millions and millions of people are now starving hungry, and this is one of the things that Yahweh said that he would do. And I asked you in that report, do you think that's just a coincidence? I don't think so, because it's never happened ever before in the history of this earth. But it also leads in, when we get the New World Order with the Noahide laws, it leads into what is referred to as a time of trouble such as never before in the history of this earth. That's where we're headed. That's where we're headed right now. There's one thing I'll just remind you before I close. Yahweh, the creator God of all life, Yahweh, the creator God of the universe, made it quite clear and promises that he will save his chosen people. They are people that he has chosen, which will be regarded as Israel, the redeemed Israel. I showed you that in the previous report. So realize also that Yahweh, the creator God, said he will use the minds of evil men, evil leaders in the world to fulfill his decreed plans to annihilate and to destroy all the wicked nations of this earth. That's what he says, and they will be led to kill each other, knock each other off, and they will cause so much terror, so much mayhem, so much war, and the poor people don't realize what they're in for. I just ask you and your family, have a prayer to Yahweh, the Creator God, that he'll put his hand of protection over you.